我相信很多人都学过，如果我们要求什么事情，可以在问句前面加上 Is it okay if？ 这样听起来会比较有礼貌，是吧？但身为主管的我们却要非常小心哦。Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管与沟通力的 Podcast。I'm Sherry, an educator, certified coach, and style enthusiast. 我相信专业有效的沟通是语言跟逻辑的完美结合。
And I'm Nick, a startup consultant, corporate trainer, and late-night gaming junkie. I believe great communication requires the right mindset and solid frameworks.
我们希望带给大家职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。
Join us each week as we share our experience, research, and methodologies to take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Executive Plus podcast. In the past, we've talked about the importance of your communication and the impressions that it creates. Now, we always want to find that balance between being polite and also self-advocating what you want. Well, there's a particular phrase that someone Sherry has brought up before, Dr. Romney, who talks about this phrase that a lot of people use, and it sounds polite, but it may be triggering things that you don't want to have happen. And it's very simply, is it okay if I?
Sentence like, is it okay if I can get a cup of coffee before the meeting? Is it okay if I can get that file before the meeting? Is it okay? Is it okay? I mean, 听起来应该非常的专业，也非常的礼貌。What's wrong with that, right? 刚刚 Nick 提到了 Dr. Romney， 那 Dr. Romney 其实应该有很多听众并不陌生。我们之前也有提到他的一些理念，尤其是在跟不能沟通的人做沟通的这个单元当中，我们有提到了 DEEP, D-E-E-P。那 Dr. Romney 呢，she specialized basically in the narcissism field and helping the victims in that relationships to heal and to stand up again and feel more empowered. 那他呢，在他的 social media 上面就讲过了 You gotta be very, very careful when you ask a question or ask about what you need. 因为如果你不小心的话，听起来是 you're asking for permission and not asking for what you need.
This is also tied to conversations we had with Kono founder Stanley about self-advocating. A lot of times when we're worried about self-advocating, we'll use these phrases like, is it okay if I, may I? And now you're starting to get into a territory where you're asking for permission. Well, from a psychological standpoint, when you're always asking for permission, you're also creating a power gap between the other person and yourself. But when you're taking that step of self-advocating, this is not about asking for permission. This is just simply asking for the things that you need, whether it's to do your job better or that are actually part of your day-to-day life.
Yeah. So sometimes just step back and think about that question itself. 你真的是需要问说 Is it okay if I can get that cup of coffee before the meeting? 或者你可以讲说 I need that cup of coffee before the meeting, right? By saying I need that cup of coffee before the meeting, 你在跟人家讲到你的需求，我需要这个事情，我需要这个东西。但如果你讲 Is it okay if I can have this? 你在问人家，我可不可以先喝一杯咖啡？ And that creates a very different feel to where you're at in an organization. 那如果你今天身为主管，或者是你有一个比较难应付的主管，那你希望能够跟他的这个等于说你跟他的一个 position 能够稍微做一些改变的话， you don't want to feel like you're so powerless at all the time, then you do need to think about how you ask for what you need.
And understandably, most people operate in this mode. When you're younger, of course, you ask the teacher, like, oh, teacher, may I get a cup of water? May I use the restroom?
Yeah.
But the context in which we're using these phrases has now switched. When you're in a room full of colleagues or when you're trying to be, for lack of a better term, an adult, then the way that you talk about these things is different. Now, it doesn't need to be impolite where you're like, I need this coffee before we start this meeting. It's more along the lines of the difference between, oh, may I get a cup of coffee before we get started? Versus someone who quite confidently says, hey, before we get started, I'm just going to grab a cup of coffee and then we can get going. That second phrase doesn't sound impolite. It's not being used to inconvenience people, but it's just stating the fact and putting it in a way where there's, again, not a power dynamic. When it's student to teacher, of course there's a power dynamic. But when it's colleague to colleague, you don't need that anymore.
In another word, what you say will actually affect how you feel about yourself, right? 你说的什么话，你怎么样来问这个问句，你会 eventually 会影响到你自己看自己的一个想法。So I know this sounds like, very like psychology today. It's not so much about phrases or English or language, but your language really affects who you are and affects how other people view you as well.
So as a simple, quick tip, we would suggest that in the future, when you catch yourself asking for permission for basic things that do not require permission, that's just your default, or saying something like, is it okay if I? Or may I have the, or may I do this? Just simply rephrase it a little bit to continue being polite, but be more about the self-advocating. I need, I would like. It would be great if. We hope you enjoyed this quick glimpse of how you can look at the psychology behind certain phrases and behind language. And be sure the next time it's time to self-advocate that you let people know what you need rather than for asking permission. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
The Executive Plus podcast is a Presentality Group production. Produced and hosted by Sherry Fang and Nick Howard. You can search us on Facebook, 主管英文 Executive Plus. You can also find us on Instagram, Communication R&D, and email us at sherry@epstyleplus.com.